Oops. Okay. All right, everybody. How are you guys doing today? Good, hopefully. It's almost Friday. I like to call Thursday pre-Friday. It makes me happier. Um, we'll go ahead and slowly get going. We are recording, so if you do miss the very beginning of any class, you can go back and check it out. But we want to try to respect everyone's time today. So this second class is a little bit shorter one, and we're going to talk initially about the group gap structure because the group gap program does work a little bit differently than audits that happen individually for farms. We want to just make sure everyone understands that. And in particular, we're going to talk a little bit about our quality management system, also known as QMS, because that's really an important piece of communication that we have to make sure that we communicate about the QMS to our folks in the program and also have that go out. You'll get subsequent newsletters throughout the year that will explain more about the QMS as the year goes by. We're also going to talk a little bit about heavy Connect record keeping again today. And so Ingrid and I are going to split this up, and I'm going to go ahead and kick us off to start about group gap program structure. So the group gap program, as we said last time, was established in the mid 2010s. And our program here in Hawaii consists of this type of hierarchy. So at the top, you see we have admin team, and then we have a group admin underneath of that. And then below that, we've got our group members, internal QMS auditor, and internal producer auditors. What in the world does all that mean? The admin team at the very top is actually a small subset of food safety professionals, actually across the country. One thing that is unique about our group gap program is that it's not just us here in Hawaii. What you're participating in is the Hawaii piece of it. We do offer our own training classes like this, but we are part of a bigger group that's called the Farmers Group. And the Farmers Group actually encompasses Hawaii producers like yourselves, as well as producers in about 7 other states across the country. So our admin team is made up of folks across the country as well, mostly folks who have been providing technical assistance or auditing services to these various group gap programs across the continent. The group admin, which is the next little box below there, that's who's responsible for basically just the administrative tasks of the group. And somehow that came to us. So those of us here at North Shore EVP are the group admin for the Farmers Group. And I think that happened because we had done our own Hawaii Group Gap program years ago. And when we merged with these other groups across the country, we were the ones that at that time had the experience to do this. Below that, you'll see group members. That's you guys, as well as the operations across the continent. We have operations that are coming from New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Utah, Texas. We had some from Nevada and Mississippi, although that's in flux. You'll also see here we have internal QMS auditor. This is a person that we choose to audit our program procedures. And so that's a person you'll probably not meet, but they look at all of our documents that we have written to describe how we do our work, and they audit that for us. That's a requirement of the Group Gap program. And then next to that, internal producer auditors, that is the folks on the team who will be coming out to do your audits. And so that's all of us, myself, Ingrid, Dea, Chess, and eventually Mia. We are internal producer auditors. Across the continent group, there are a couple other folks, Reed and Krista, who you may occasionally hear from or see on Zoom if they are to help us out at any time with an audit a little bit later on. So that's the structure of the group. And then, sorry, I'm not advancing. So a little bit about the QMS I did mention earlier. It means Quality Management System. It is a document made up of several documents that's basically describing how we do what we do. And what we do is provide this group gap training and certification service to farmers. So the Hawaii Group Gap, as I said, is managed by the Farmers Group. The Farmers Group owns the QMS that dictates how we do our work. It includes our member list. So everyone in Hawaii who's in the group is on the member list, as well as those folks on the continent. It also includes specifics about training. For example, for us to do internal audits, what is the training that we need? What does our continuing education have to be? What we document for audit compliance. So for example, the QMS outlines how we do an audit, how we do the reporting, what happens to that reporting, if there's corrective actions, what happens there. So it's all very specified and laid out, and that is so it can be audited. And USDA can say, hey, you guys are doing a great job. You're following your procedures. Or they can say, oh, you wrote this, but you didn't do it. And I like to mention that in particular because you guys as farmers, you will have your operation audited and we'll be looking to see that you're doing what you say you're doing in your documents. Just know that we get that too. Our documentation is also audited, so we understand how that feels. Why do we have the QMS? It's required. So when USDA created the Group Gap program, they set this up as a requirement that each group coming in has to have a system through which USDA can ensure compliance, that you are doing the things that you say that you're doing, as well as compliance with the specific standard that you choose to work under. And as mentioned in class 1, we work under the Harmonized Gap and Harmonized Gap Plus standards. The QMS also helps make sure that we meet our customer needs. So we're constantly going back and looking at, did we do a good job this year? Did we have complaints? What was the customer feedback? Customers are people like yourselves, but also USDA, could be our local Department of Agriculture. It could be our buyers or your buyers. Those are all of our customers. So this is a method through which we make sure that we're meeting the needs of our customers and allows us basically to monitor ourselves. One key piece of our QMS is what's called the quality policy. And this is something that is required to be in the document, and it is also supposed to be measurable. So you'll see our quality policy is a simple statement that is that we are building vitality in local and regional food systems through dynamic collaboration on food safety and quality. How can that be measurable? Well, it's actually measured through our quality objectives. So you'll see the 3 bullet points below. The first one is probably the most important one and most easily quantified, and this is the successful certification of all of our participating members. So our goal, and it's written in our QMS, our goal is to get you folks certified. That is the key to this whole entire process. The second objective is that we want to make sure that you folks are reaching new or increased market opportunities. And so that goes along with certification. The certification, we hope, opens doors to new markets for you. And then the third bullet, a clear plan for implementation for groups wishing to follow. This is actually a funny one because USDA has advised us that we should probably take that out. It's not, they don't consider it an objective. We put it in there because we really want to create a program that in other places in the United States, if folks want to create group gap groups, they have a way to do that by following what we've already established. USDA folks said that they like that, but they don't feel like it needs to be an objective. So good feedback from one of our customers, I guess. So other things that are required in the group gap requirements, the policy is that each operation in the group takes part in 2 internal audits a year. One is an announced one, so we'll schedule that with you and come out to your farm and you'll know when it's happening. The second one is called unannounced. It's not truly unannounced. We're not going to just pop over to see you without you knowing it, but we won't give much notice on that. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward. The other piece, though, here that's important about the internal audits I touched on briefly earlier is that they're performed by trained staff. So we have to undergo specific training in order to do internal audits for you. And that's outlined here. We have to attend the auditor training that USDA provides. This is a once-a-year training in a specific standard. And you do have to take a test and pass it. We also have to have attended the Produce Safety Alliance grower training course. So that's the PSA grower training that some of you may have taken as well. We also have a online, it's called Fundamentals of Auditing prerequisite course that we must take. And once all that is done, we also have to maintain continuing education. There's a target number of hours that we have to meet every year to make sure that we are meeting that goal. So it's very specific, it's outlined. And if you ever have questions about how we are auditing, please know that we have been taking the USDA classes and refresher trainings, and that's why we feel comfortable providing guidance to you guys on what would or wouldn't work as far as compliance to the standard. Audits and records for group gap. This is really key to know as well. So a couple things we've bulleted here. First is that to maintain compliance, all of your internal audits, when we come out and do them, will be provided to USDA to review. And that is really so that they can check to make sure that we're doing a good job at auditing and we're maintaining compliance with our own set of standards. Every year in the group gap program, every audit gets an intern, or every operation gets an internal audit. However, not every operation is going to see a visit by USDA. The way that group gap works is they take the total number of operations in the group and they pull a subset number to come out and visit. That's typically a formula that is the square root of the total number in the group. So let's say we have 50 farms in our group, they're going to probably visit about 7 of them. The good thing for us is that because we're merged with a much larger group on the continent, we don't always take all that 7, for example, in that example. We might have 4 of our operations get audited and 3 on the continent will be audited. So it's a benefit to be in this large group, particularly with folks outside of Hawaii. So what that means is that, let's say we have 4 farms that are going to have their what we call external audit. Those farms will be seeing a visit from a USDA or a Department of Agriculture here in the state, Department of Agriculture person to come out and do the audit. When that happens, our team will also come just to help out and be an advocate for you guys as that audit takes place. If your operation passes the audit, great. If you don't pass the audit, that's okay too. You're not bringing the whole group down. It does happen sometimes that we find corrective actions, and all that means is that there's documentation and mitigation measures that need to take place to continue. This is something that we want to talk about just because everyone has brought this up. People bring this up frequently as a concern about group gap. And we've heard many times that people say, oh, but if you join group gap and you fail, that fails the whole group. That is not the case. In group gap, an individual operation that fails an audit, it's fine. It doesn't make the whole group fail. What happens is the operation that has some corrective actions addresses those issues. And we do that through a document, which is called a corrective action report. We fill out how you're going to address those actions or those issues and in what time frame you're going to do that. And then you would turn that back into us. Once that time frame elapses, we will come out and double check that those things got done, and then we're good to go. It's really up to the operation to determine how they want to address the corrections if they are needed, and also in what time frame that's going to happen. And we can provide guidance to help you guys with that. So just want to make it clear, failure is something that happens. It shouldn't be something that you're super stressed or worried about. Everybody in our group has had corrective actions at one point or another, so nothing to stress about in terms of audits. As you move forward, kind of talked on this already, but any nonconformances have to have a corrective action report. So that is going to be key as we work through audits with you guys later in the year. If you do have a corrective action, you're just going to want to make sure that we do fill out that form, and then we will do a follow-up audit with you and review the mitigation measures, make sure that everything gets done and is tucked in, and then you'll be ready for certification. If however, you have repeated failures, we are going to sit down and talk about that because we want to make sure that we're addressing the underlying issue. Additionally, if we see the same things over and over again, that can indicate a bigger problem. And so we'll have a discussion with you at that point in time if that occurs. Things that occur that that trigger this are things like not doing records over and over and over again. You don't have enough records. Health and hygiene measures, for example, not washing hands properly, not having hand washing materials at the farm. Those are things that can trigger this type of situation where we're going to have a discussion about the underlying issue. I'm going to talk just briefly about aquaponics because aquaponics has a set of guidelines that are in addition to the harmonized GAP guidelines. So two things that we're going to talk about here. One is how the product is being packaged, and then two is going to be about practices around your aquaponics in general. So aquaponics, if you are packaging your root systems with the crop, you must make sure that the water that is used to grow the crop has no detectable generic E. coli. That means your water has to be microbially clean. If you choose to cut that root section off, then that's a different situation. But if you're packaging it together, we do need to make sure that this is addressed. And then otherwise for aquaponics, a few additional notes here. One is looking at the water that's moving between where the crop is grown and the fish. If that water is likely to touch the edible portion of the crop, there should be a water sanitation method happening. So if that is something that's going on in your operation, we can talk further about that individually. For aquaponics, the water testing is also a little bit more robust. You have to monthly test. And there's specifics about where you take that. It's after it runs through the fish tanks. We will have a written water testing procedure that we can develop with you for that and help you out with figuring out where you're going to send those samples to be tested. But it is a little bit more robust than water testing for conventional farms. And then the last thing to note for aquaponics, we will have a few additional SOPs that we'll have to help you with, and that will be to really identify how you're preventing cross-contamination from fish to crop. So not that hard, definitely things that we have done, but just wanted to point that out as we start to talk about records and record keeping. These are some specifics that if you have aquaponics in your operation, we'll want to be addressing. All right, and I think I am handing it over to Ingrid at this point.
Thanks, Lisa. Hi, everybody. I'm Ingrid. I don't think I've met or seen all of you. I'm one of the food safety specialists on the team. So we're just going to touch on record keeping. Records are a huge part of certification. You can't have the certification without them. So they're super important that we're, consistent with record keeping and that they are accurate. And one thing to note is that they should be completed by someone who is physically on the farm. We have had this happen before where maybe a manager or owner is filling out the records, but they're not the ones on the farm. This causes a lot of issues down the line. So if you are a manager or owner, but you've got farm workers, it really should be them who are completing these records on Heavy Connect. Records are reviewed for each audit and will be shared with the USDA auditor if you're selected. So we will give them kind of like a limited access to your Heavy Connect account. So they're able to view your records and your documentation before they come out to your farm. And this really cuts down on the time that they are there physically on the farm. For records, you need to keep them for a minimum of 2 years. So with Heavy Connect, there's no issue there. They're just going to pile up there on the software. But if you are keeping any sort of paper records for something else, like maybe temperatures for a compost pile or something like that, you'll want to make sure that you are keeping those records for a minimum of 2 years. And then with Heavy Connect, we will receive weekly reports on what your records look like. So if you are getting flagged for something on Heavy Connect, we will be notified, and it's helpful because then we can reach out to you and say, hey, what's going on? What maybe you didn't understand the question, or the question's worded differently or oddly. And so there's confusion there. So it kind of just helps keep everybody on track and making sure that all of the records are completed efficiently and accurately. And then lastly, records are not only useful for harmonized gap, but they're useful for farm service agency loans, natural resource conservation reimbursement programs, other food safety reimbursement programs. And also, if you're interested in organic certification, I know that a lot of the records are very similar. So here are some of the records that you will keep for general scope. This may look overwhelming at first, but you will not complete all of these records every single day. So the one here at the top, daily gap restroom log, this one will be your one daily record, or whenever the farm is open, you'll want to complete this. The rest of them that follow, you will only complete when you are actually doing these things. So your harvest log, obviously you'll fill out when you're doing a harvest. Your visitor log, when you've got somebody coming to the farm, maybe you're doing a farm tour or you have a volunteer or something like that, you're going to want to make sure that they fill out the visitor log, which is very quick. And it basically just makes sure that this person knows where the restroom is located. So they're not going to be, using the bathroom in your field. They know where the hand washing is. They know that there's no maybe glass allowed in your greenhouse, things like that. Just really basic things. Your dangerous incident log, you'll fill this out if something dangerous happens on the farm. So maybe you're filling up gas in one of your vehicles and the gas spills, what happened there. So you'll just document, that you followed the procedures that are on your farm plan and took care of the spill. Mock recall and traceability log. This one is just done once a year. Employee training. This is done however often you need to train your employees. Greenhouse inspection log. If you've got a greenhouse, you'll use this one. If you don't, it doesn't pertain to you. And then lastly, your farm updates log. We just kind of recently included this one, and this is for when maybe you're building something new on your farm, there's a new structure, something like that, you're going to want to fill out this log. So again, these are not every single day. Your only daily one is the daily gap one. The rest you kind of just complete as you go. And again, these are for the general scope. Okay. So here are for the field operations and harvesting scope. So you can kind of just look down at the list here. Again, not all of these are going to apply to you. And as you folks start completing your homework, we will learn more about your operation and we will go into Heavy Connect and start customizing these records for you. So if you aren't doing any manure compost on your farm, obviously we're going to take that off. Or the manure application log, if you're not using manure, we're going to remove that. So what you see on your Heavy Connect account will only be what you are actually using or doing on your farm. So again, pesticide application, you'll fill out when you are applying pesticides or fertilizer. And even for these ones, you won't be typing anything in. We'll make everything a drop-down menu. So you give us your list of pesticides that you're using, which is why we ask for this on the homework document. And then we will start to input that into your Heavy Connect account. So when you go to do your pesticide log, everything's listed right there. And you're just going to tap which one you're using that day and where you're applying it. Let's see, the water delivery system assessment. This one's done. It kind of just depends on your operation, but typically that's once a year. Some operations do it twice a year. Cleaning and sanitizing. This one, I want to make clear that this really should sync with whenever you're having a harvest. So if there's a date you're having a harvest, that same date should also include a cleaning and sanitizing log. You want these two logs to correspond. We can put this cleaning and sanitizing section in your harvest log. So then you don't need to remember, oh yeah, okay, I've got to do these two logs for a harvest. You can let us know, what works for you folks, but we can include this in your harvest log so you don't need to kind of remember any extra steps. And this one, same thing, we're going to list out all of your items that you're using during a harvest. So everything is just a click. What you're using to clean it, we'll list that. What you're using to sanitize, we'll list that. So you're just having to kind of click through the list to document that you did do your cleaning and sanitizing before harvest. Delivery log, same thing. You'll complete it when you are doing a delivery. Same for manure. And these are just examples. You could have different records depending on your operation, and we can also create a record for you that maybe there's something specific or niche that you are keeping track of, or you want to remove from paper to your Heavy Connect account. We can definitely add any sort of record that you need. I feel like I'm talking fast. I'll try to slow down. Okay, this one is your post-harvest scope. You will only be using this if you are being audited on the post-harvest scope. Most folks do just the general and the field scope. But if you're one of the ones that is also doing post-harvest, these are just some examples of some of the records that you'll be keeping. So scale calibration, refrigerator temperature log, just documenting that you've checked the temperature of your refrigerator and it's on Heavy Connect. Again, if these like post-harvest wash water sanitizer log, if you are on municipal water or you aren't sanitizing your post-harvest wash water, this one's not going to pertain to you and we will remove it. So again, you will only see what is specific for you and your operation, which is why completing your homework as accurately as possible will be crucial so we can get you folks going on Heavy Connect and making sure that you're only seeing what you need and you're only using what you need. Okay, so there was a big fail this morning. I was supposed to show you guys a demo of what a harvest log looks like, but my phone would not mirror. I don't know what's going on there. So on Tuesday's class, I will show a quick screen recording of what the harvest log looks like so you guys can kind of see what it looks like when a farm is set up with everything that they've got. So I'll show you a farm that's it's only specific to them, and you can see kind of how it could be customized and what sorts of things and questions will be asked within that log. So sorry about that. We will get back to that on Tuesday. Heavy Connect dashboard. So along with your app on your phone, you can also access Heavy Connect from a computer, and the dashboard side of it we'll have a few more features that you can look at. And one of them here is your crop builder. This one we honestly typically do for our farmers. We don't really have too many farmers that do this themselves. So you basically tell us what you're growing and we will go in and Heavy Connect and add all of the crops that you're growing. So when you're doing a harvest log or a pesticide log, everything's going to be listed there for you. If you are interested in knowing how to do more of this stuff on your own, we can definitely, teach you or show you or jump on a Zoom to explain it. But otherwise, I would just leave it up to us. We're happy to add your crops on there. And lastly, Heavy Connect binders. So this houses all of your farm documents. So once your farm plan is complete and it's been signed, we'll PDF it and add it to your binder on Heavy Connect. Your maps and things from your farm, we can upload to your binder, your water distribution system map, other things like maybe SDS and labels, things like that will all be stored on your binder. So your binder just houses everything but the records, all the other documentation that you need for certification. And that's pretty much it. So again, you folks can start working on that homework document that your farm lead should have sent. Try to be as specific as possible on those because it really makes it a lot quicker and more efficient when we're typing up your farm plan and putting stuff in your ag chemical inventory and things like that. So with the pesticides and fertilizers, even if you're not using it, but it's on your farm, just list it out and you can make a note, not in use, because we've got to have everything on there that's even just stored on your farm. So just being as accurate as possible is super helpful. At this point, you guys can download the Heavy Connect app if you haven't done so already. If you haven't received your login info, you will shortly. I'm pretty sure everybody has received it. So you can go ahead and log in and start messing around. You can start completing records too. We can go in there and delete it just so you can get a feel for what the app looks like and the sorts of checklists you're going to be seeing on there. Um, that's pretty much it. Any questions?
We said it would be short today and we did not lie.
Yeah,
Max?
Max.
I have a more general question. It's not specific to what we discussed today. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess briefly, we have, or we've sort of been experiencing lately, um, a disconnect between our food safety plan on farm and the our end users' um, concerns about food safety. It doesn't, is there any, or do you guys offer some kind of outreach or consumer education for the end users who aren't necessarily satisfied by the farm having third-party certification or basically like our our food safety system that exists currently and once we um, get this GAP certification. It's useful in the sense of what is required of us as a business, liability purposes. It doesn't always have the same impact with the customers, and we're hearing feedback from some of our suppliers that there's a little, I don't know if it's more education or what, but there's a gap between what we have in place and what satisfies the market. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
Um, are they asking for harmonized GAP certification in particular, the buyers?
No. And frankly, our buyers are wholesalers almost exclusively. So, what their issues are is, say, for example, we have, um, you know, say we've got incidents of a lot of cutworms in the field. This just happened last month. Um, and the harvest crew has been trained and they're logged and all that as part of our on-farm system. But inevitably, a couple will show up in a case that we send out. Um, when the customer receives that, our wholesaler doesn't have a great answer for them other than, hey, this farm it has their food safety plan. It's operational. We provide them all our documentation, but there's there's not necessary like that doesn't satisfy the concern. It addresses our liability and our wholesalers, but you'll still lose accounts on through the kind of like normal day-to-day operations, and the food safety doesn't really satisfy that. I don't know. It might just be there's no answer to it, but I was wondering, do you guys do any kind of like consumer-based outreach or education that, or even have a recommendation for like some way of getting across to the consumer that not only does the farm have a food safety plan, but it's you know, it provides for all these occurrences and issues that may arise through just like normal farm operation.
Yeah, I would say one, I guess to answer the first part of the question, we do talk to buyers on occasion, and I would agree with you. Education still needs to happen. I think it's getting there, but it's been a slow process of helping buyers even understand what the food safety landscape offers and what that means. One thing that we try to tell folks, even, on this side of the classes with you guys, but also buyers, that, we're doing our best to mitigate, but that's, foods, there is no such thing as 100% prevention in any case. So maybe that would be the one thing I would stress, is that we put practices in place to mitigate risk. Risk is not, we cannot eliminate it. That's not a thing. But we'd be happy to talk to folks if it's helpful. And we are planning, one of the things that we've been working on the last couple of months is a food safety summit, which will be held on Maui, and we'll definitely be inviting buyers to that. Maybe that's a topic that we could discuss in a breakout session, because we have had, I think, better relationship building with buyers over the last year or two. And so this is a topic that would be a good one to bring up. What does it mean when someone has a food safety plan and they're following it? Does that mean that all of their product is going to be perfect and pest free? No, that's just not, I mean, that's not realistic, right? So maybe that's something that we could address. We have in the past advocated with buyers for farmers in our program. For example, like a buyer might say, well, you need this, we need this standard. And we have gone and said, that doesn't apply to that farm, though. That's asking too much of them because they're not at that level. So we have done that. But I think maybe this situation that you're mentioning is a little bit different, and it's more of a just what does food safety do and what doesn't it do? Any other questions? One thing I'll mention too, really quickly before we jump off. I mentioned the unannounced audit earlier, and I just want to go back to that really quickly. So in Hawaii, because we have almost a year-round growing season, basically, we really do make sure that we do this internal audit, which will be on site. We come out and we visit. The second audit that we do is called unannounced, and what that means really is that in most cases, we're not going to come out to your farm for that second one, that unannounced audit. It's in most cases going to be a remote audit. And what we will do is give you maybe 48 hours notice that we're going to go and look at all your records that are in Heavy Connect, and review those. And then we're going to set up a meeting with you afterwards, just to ask if there's any updates, anything different that you're doing on your operation. It's less of a coming and looking at your practices and more of a, are you being consistent with your records? Is there anything that's changed since we last, did your audit, since we last visited, since we last spoke? So just to kind of clarify that for everybody, the unannounced audit is never really actually unannounced, at least not the way that we do it. We will give you notice, but it's really more of a check of the record keeping and making sure that record keeping and your policies that are written are consistent and working well for you. So
Yeah, I have a question. Who would be sending the Heavy Connect login credentials? Because I don't think I see it yet, but just want to know if would that be
that would be
coming
Chess
from
or
whom?
myself probably. So
Okay,
yeah, I'll look back and see. I'll get it out to you today if we haven't already sent it.
okay,
And check with Chess. Yeah, it should come
all
from
right,
your lead. So
okay, thank you.
yeah,
Oh,
sure.
okay. Eric told me he said he got it. Okay,
Oh, okay.
all right, all right, awesome.
He's holding it hostage.
Yeah.
Is anybody else missing or needing their Heavy Connect login information? Everyone else is good. Okay. Awesome. All right. Any other questions or comments? Concerns? Cool.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it. For I really feel very supported.
Yay.
It's daunting, and I'm excited, optimistic for Heavy Connect to be tenable,
Yeah.
for like getting the worker bees to actually, you know, input the data.
Yeah. It'll
Yeah.
be a game changer. Like if you're used to keeping paper records and you're moving to this, it's
Yeah.
going to be a game changer. It's going to be way quicker and more efficient. And yeah, that's awesome. We're always super
Awesome.
excited to provide this to our farmers because it's a crucial
Yeah.
piece to certification, and this is like the cream of the crop for it. So,
Awesome. Very
yeah.
cool. Thank you.
All right.